Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ahmedabad Management Association, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to session 3 of the Productivity Lecture Series, focusing on the very relevant and timely theme of social entrepreneurship and sustainability. We are delighted to have you with us this evening at the AMA complex in the Atira campus. Your presence reflects a shared commitment to responsible leadership, inclusive growth, and sustainable value creation. Social entrepreneurship today sits at the intersection of innovation, impact, and enterprise. It challenges traditional businesses, redefines success, and plays a critical role in addressing societal and environmental changes. This session aims to deepen our understanding of how sustainability-led thinking can be embedded into entrepreneurial and organizational frameworks in a meaningful and scalable manner. It is my honor to introduce our distinguished speaker for this session, Professor Satyajit Majumdar. Please join me in respecting and welcoming him with a short welcome gift. Professor Majumdar is a highly respected academic and practitioner with over 4 decades of experience spanning entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, strategic management, growth strategy, and corporate social responsibility. He is currently the managing director of the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, of the Incubation Center. And he's also a distinguished adjunct professor at the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, EDII. He has previously served as a professor and dean at the School of Management and Labor Studies at Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai. With an academic background that spans engineering, management, and a PhD, and as a fellow of the Institute of Engineers in India, Professor Majumdar brings a rare blend of technical depth, political insight, and hands-on mentoring experience. He has advised startups, corporates, and government bodies, contributed to national policy committees, and has been recognized with several honors, including the Dr. V.G. Patel Memorial Award for his contributions to entrepreneurship, education, and mentoring. We are privileged to learn from his insights and experience today. I now request you all to please welcome, with a huge round of applause, Professor Satyajit Majumdar.
Thank you. So I cannot forget my professor-like personality. So that's what I thought, that I'll not stand behind the podium and come out a little bit. Okay. So I hope you are okay, right? So yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, thanks for the introduction, Dhruvi, and thanks Rahul for inviting me. And I was telling sir that there have been years when I was sitting here. So I have attended few sessions here, sitting here. So today I have changed my seat, and thank you for helping me to navigate through this distance. Courtesy Rahul, AMA. I'm fully aware I'm standing at a knowledge city, knowledge district, and the entire environment is full of knowledge. I'm very much aware. So really feeling honored and very happy to be here. So the subject of today's discussion would be entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship and sustainability. But though I'll build up a little bit of conceptualization of social entrepreneurship, how the concept came about, more so for the purpose of why it is relevant for India. Maybe few academic arguments. And I have been sort of fortunate enough to work in across country in this discipline. So you can call me a practitioner and academician and a researcher both. So I have been experiencing every day what I'm teaching and what I've been sort of researching on. So my resources of this discussion is a combination of these three. Some scholarly literature, some research which I have already done myself, and some published reports, of course. I might not been able to acknowledge all of them, but yeah, I owe a lot to them, including my own research and teaching experiences, of course. And of course, I have a fortune of consulting few companies on few aspects of entrepreneurship, technology applications, and some societal impact kind of activities, and also mentoring startups. So, probably I meet startup almost every day, business and social startups. So I've taken a position for this session to make life little easy. First thing is social enterprises solve typical pressing problem. There are some problems which are generally left out, which is not being addressed by the established system. And generally established system could be maybe the government system. That doesn't mean government is not working. I'm not taking that position. But what I'm saying, it's not happening, right? And market-led system, the business side of it. So maybe there is huge amount of residue which is left unattended. Probably social entrepreneurs attempt to solve those problems, right? And that quantum is pretty big, though it may be subtle. It may manifest with very small, but it has got very subtle importance. So that's my first submission. And there is a need to deliver value, okay? And when we talk about sustainability, I'll not discuss much about sustainability of the planet and climate change and those kind of stuff, which all of us are aware. We have been reading a lot, we have been listening a lot. And of course, I'm not an expert in that discipline. I will argue slightly different on sustainability, how social enterprises look at sustainability and what they need to do. And of course, I'm mindful of the fact that technology is an enabler. Technology exists, so we cannot, when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about solutions, we simply cannot ignore technology. So though I'll not discuss about technology, but I'm informed. I believe that exists. So there are a few questions I'm posing for this session. I have 60 minutes time, so then we'll have a engaging Q&A session. I'm sure we'll have very engaging conversation on that. So the first thing is, as I said before, I'm posing a question how social entrepreneur considers sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability from the social entrepreneurship point of view, I think two questions hit us. That what is the sustainability of the impact? And we know what happens. There are programs and initiatives. The moment the agency withdraws, the whole impact goes back to square. And we know there are great programs which have not taken off in the real sense. So that's what I argue as the sustainability of impact. That's my first sort of view which we'll discuss. And the second is sustainability of the enterprise, because how this enterprise will continue to operate, right? If everything is social good, then what is in for an entrepreneurs, right? That's the second question which I'll pose myself. And certainly that leads to discussing quite a bit about the strategic view of business model, which I'll discuss a little bit. And this happens to be my research interest area also. And of course, in order to do that, what is the capability story, right? So how do we build up organization capability and community capability? So these are the 3 pointers on which I will kind of arrange my sort of discussions in next 50, 60 minutes. So I'm making some thematic statements, which will run through time and again. Pardon me, this statement will come again and again during my next 50, 60 minutes discussion. First thing is social, and as I said, social entrepreneurship emerged as a mechanism to address the gap created by market-led mechanism, or maybe government and market-led mechanisms, or maybe both, a combination of both. One is, the second thing is, when we talk about social entrepreneurial solutions, I think one solution doesn't fit all. So the context plays a very important role. So how do we decode the context? And when I say context, it is not about what is the GDP of the area, what is the population, what is the gender, etc., etc. But what are the cultural underpinnings, how society looks at the phenomena? That's equally important. With that context, probably social entrepreneurs are revolutionaries. Okay, when I say revolutionaries, not that the social entrepreneurs will go and shout slogans against government, but they try to do what they want to do to change the system. So they are a system changer, actually. And I'll discuss a little bit more on that. So the question is, When you start doing it, so you need to, or social entrepreneur need to adopt innovative practices to enhance maybe productivity of the system. And we know farm-based problems, we know medtech problems, we know health access problems, etc., etc. And of course, there is something to change in the socio-economic status of the systems also. So these are few thematic statements which I will kind of, these are my central theme on which I built up the whole discussion. Interestingly, social entrepreneurship as a subject is quite confusing. And that's why every time you read a new article or research, you will find one new definition. So as many articles as you read, you will find as many definitions. So that creates quite a bit of confusion and contradictions also. But we can see a pattern. If you look at so-called underdeveloped or developing country, though we don't agree that we are underdeveloped country, but for the sake of this discussion, if we assume that we are so, I think we have a narrative that we are saying that the way we address societal problem, okay, and developmental needs of the marginalized people, right? Reason of marginalization need not be poverty alone. Sometimes the marginalization could be the access. Maybe a remote village in Uttarakhand may be reasonably well off so far as the economics of the place is concerned. But since it is inaccessible, probably that creates marginalization. So when I say marginalization, that doesn't mean always neglect on the economic strata. It could be other reasons also. There could be some other reasons also. So that's one pocket of thought. So that's what we think. So maybe Asia, Africa, all of us belong to this group. The second group is UK and Europe, which is actually community interest corporation kind of narrative. And that there we see that generally there is a method to privatize public services. So the agency which operates it on behalf of the government is generally labeled as social entrepreneurs, right? And they have their own business model, highly supported by last mile connectivity kind of thing, which is there in Russia also. So that's another group. When you look at, so in fact, in UK, probably, if you want to see the very structured definition of social enterprises, I think Scotland is the one who has really defined it very well. So I think if you want to understand the model perspective, which we may disagree, exist in Scotland. The Scottish system is pretty established. So that's why we believe that they have structured it very well, which is quite fuzzy in India as on today. I'll come to that. Then North America, there are two groups of thought. One is the non-profit charitable organization who give grant. Eventually, we started calling it as a grant capital. So it is given with the thinking of a capital, but nevertheless it's a grant. The grant capital is quite popular in those countries. And of course, there is another kind of method of migrating from giving grant to giving some kind of, if you call it in a very loose term, zero interest sort of investment kind of thing, or zero interest debt kind of thing. So that's the American sort of way of putting the things in social enterprise place. The last is Russia, which is again very interesting. I have been personally associated with a bit of Russian ecosystem for some time. So basically, again, you will see a lot of similarity between Europe and Russia. That's also kind of last mile connectivity. But nevertheless, there is a lot of, so loosely I'm saying, if somebody asks you, whom you call a social entrepreneur in Russia, probably government is the social entrepreneur. Because they set up the whole model, they set up the whole agenda, and then they say, I'm giving you this, please do this on my behalf, which is slightly different from Europe and Russia. There's a thin line difference. So anyway, I'm not here to explain what is the difference. What I'm trying to submit is the entire globe looks at social entrepreneurship very differently. So how do you look at it in India? That's the question we are sitting here. I think first we need to address that why do we need social entrepreneurs in India? So there could be multiple narratives. Somebody says that the first structured narrative was built up by, say, Muhammad Yunus when he started Grameen Bank. Maybe some structured initiative in the literature was created by Dees, and there are first-line researchers in universities in US. Maybe somebody will say the first organized literature was created by David Bronston in his book, How to Change the World. So you may see these things happening, but none of them actually kind of connect with us completely. So the question, what connects us completely, if you look at a little more academically, is basically over the last 30% per plus years. So here I'm not criticizing any government. I'm not criticizing any government policy. I'm not competent to do that. What I'm saying, this market-led economic development scenario is the era in which all of us are living. So what has happened when everything is market-driven, we become efficiency-driven economy. So everything is efficiency. And you look at across, it could be cost efficiency, it could be time efficiency, it could be engineering efficiency. Everywhere efficiency is driving your growth, okay? Fair enough, that should be there. So that brings, efficiency brings excellence. I think if somebody says it should not be there, that's not right, it should be there. But the point here is, we are a country of 1.4 billion or maybe more than that, okay? Imagine there are people who are little less efficient. I'm just referring not very inefficient, I'm saying little less efficient. So in the competitive efficient world, these people will be left out. Obviously, we have the mass of efficient people itself is very big. So system will take care of that. But what happens to the one who is little less efficient? And can you imagine how this pyramid is being constructed, right? So the question is, what will happen to them? I'm not making any emotional speech. I'm saying that how do you ensure that these people are also included in the developmental narrative or developmental agenda? How do you do that? So there are different things. Government gives grants, government gives free ration. There are efficient way of doing many government things. Okay, Ujjwala scheme is there. There are many things which are happening. Okay, again there are something going good, something not going good. So fine, that's fine. But the question is, how do we ensure that these people are also included in the development agenda? Okay, that's the question. It's not only emotional statement, it's a market statement also. How do you claim that you have a big market unless these people are included in the market mechanisms? If they don't raise up their buying capacity, how do you claim that you are a big market? Okay, so I think that's the question. So we'll have to include them in the system. So when I say this, including marginalized people together is basically also have a reason, socioeconomic, environmental, or of course the overall sort of narrative of the development of the country. So I'm referring that. Okay, so the question is, how do you do that? Probably social entrepreneur give. Let me submit one thing before I forget. Let us not be under the impression that social entrepreneurs have solution for every problem. There are many problems which social entrepreneurs cannot solve. So I'm very clear about it. I'm working in this discipline last 20 plus years. Okay, there are many problems social entrepreneurs cannot solve. So let us not assume that every problem social entrepreneur has a solution. No, answer is no. Answer is no. Okay, maybe we can have a separate discussion. Which are the problems where social entrepreneurs cannot have a solution? Maybe we can separate discuss. So coming back to this, when we look at these kind of systems around, you will see even the poverty is also not equally divided. I'm just giving you one example. If you go to Vidarbha region, I'm just for the sake of example, I'm saying so. If you go to Vidarbha region, the farmer holding 5-acre land will call himself as a poor farmer because the land productivity is bad, right? So he is still go to Konkan region or Western Maharashtra and ask the same question, what is your land holding? The farmer will not say that I'm a poor farmer, even if the land holding is 5-acre. So the point I'm making is even the narrative of the poverty is also not uniformly distributed. So how can you say that everybody is equal in poverty? That's not the case. Even the poverty doesn't have equality. So the problem is reasonably complex, right? So that's my first submission. Now look at the map of the country. All of us know that. Okay, it's a country of complexity and contradiction. I'm using these words very cautiously. Okay, it's really we are a very complex country. Okay, and somebody says that you travel 100 kilometers, the food changes, the culture changes, the dialect changes. That stands. Maybe it's less than 100 kilometers. Maybe. Okay, so it's a complex country. So if you say how many India resides within India, probably you'll have to create a long list of India, right? So that's what India is all about, right? Just like Europe. Somebody says that India is like European Union. Maybe answer is yes. Now, the contradictions is also very important. So, India is a country of contradiction. What appears to be right in one context may not be right at all in the second context. And probably this geographical sort of spread is also an answer to this. So we have deserts, we have snow-clad mountains, we have hot regions, we have very cold regions. We have marshy land, we have dry lands, right? So weather, behavior, culture, everything adds to this contradiction and complexity. So when we say, are we talking about one India? Probably answer is no, we are not referring to one India. So it's very complex. So maybe the complexity gets added up if you add these many factors together. Of course, technology I'm keeping as overarching phenomena, but the geopolitical environment is different. The supply chain difficulties or ease is different. The societal cultural norms are different, and so on and so forth, everything put together. Maybe we can add more here. So if I think of designing a business model, and that's what the circle means, okay, as the size of the enterprise increases, the manifestation of complexity also changes, right? So probably what I call as orbit of growth, just like electrons, right? The behavior of electron in the outermost orbit will be very different from the behavior to the next orbit, and so on, right? Though we say it's the same electron, answer is not the same electron. The electrons are carrying different energy levels. So actually, technically, they are not same electrons. Same logic applies here. So technically, it's not same complexity. It's a complexity of variety, or maybe variety of complexity. So social enterprise, interestingly, has no definition in India. So either they are registered as NGO, or they are registered as Section 8 company, or farmer producer organization, or producer organization, and so on. So we can have cooperatives also, whom you label as. So social enterprise is a concept. It's not a format of a business. I think that makes the story very difficult. Okay, so that's precisely I'm adding one more complexity to the story. Though there are some estimates, but if you have so many varieties of social enterprises, how do you count them? So I think that still remains a problem, right? But there are some estimates. I'm not going by the number at this moment because we are not here to discuss the number. We are discussing the complexity of sustainability. So the question here is, how do we ensure that this social enterprise exists? Because they need to address some problem which is not being addressed by the market and government systems, right? So we need them. And on the contrary, we don't have any definition. So I think that's precisely the difficulty we are posing here. So not having a clear definition, I believe, is also a strength of this country. Okay, it is actually a multidisciplinary discipline. So that's the reason in academic literature, if you see, the major contributor of social entrepreneurship literature is actually public policy literature, then management literature. You'll be surprised to know that management literature contributes more than the entrepreneurship literature, though it's a subject of entrepreneurship. Okay, so that proves that we are generating knowledge of social entrepreneurship from different disciplines, maybe finance, maybe technology, and so on and so forth. So every discipline is open to contribute to the knowledge field, and that's what I'm saying. Disagreement of this definition is the opportunity. So I think all of us have a space to do something in social enterprise, probably. That's the advantage we stand for. So back in 2013, it was a little early actually. I had a PhD scholar called Nia Choi. She was writing a thesis under me. She was registered under me in 2011 to be very precise. And she was interested to write something on social innovation. So we wrote something, but she got disinterested. So we said, okay, fine. No more enforcement of the thesis is your own sort of intellectual journey, right? So you cannot impose a subject of research on any researcher. So I also didn't do that, though she progressed a little bit. Then she got interested in social entrepreneurship. She said, no, social innovation is social entrepreneurship, because the overarching phenomena is social entrepreneurship. Fair enough. Then we started operationalizing the definition of social entrepreneurship. Then you read one next paper, there is a new definition, and next paper, a new definition, and next paper, a new definition. Now, more you read, more you are confused, right? So I think, where do you stand now? As a researcher, you have to take a position on the research, and then you can do the rest of the things, right? So it didn't happen. So we were really, even as a PhD supervisor, I was also grappling with the idea what to do. Okay, this girl is very energetic, very enthusiastic. She has a point of view. She wants to do something, right? But we are not able to help her to give an operational definition to social entrepreneurship. And I'm talking about back in 2011, जब मैं बोलता था कि I'm a professor of social entrepreneurship, people used to say, what? NGO? Okay, what? Social entrepreneurship, what is that? ऐसा कुछ होता है क्या? Okay, can you imagine? That was the time, right? And then you are saying that you will want to conduct a research in social entrepreneurship. Can you imagine the frustration of the research scholar and the guide? Okay, I was equally frustrated as my PhD student was, right? And I was really, really struggling hard to find out something. I said, definition nahi hai, ye keh ke aap chhod nahi sakte. That's the job of academicians actually, to create that knowledge which is missing. That's the purpose of research actually, to fill the knowledge gap. And I cannot say there is no definition, sorry, we cannot do anything about it. You can't say like that. That's immoral on the part of an academician, right? So certainly I cannot do that. I was really, really struggling hard to find out, let me look at other disciplines. And I knew that it's an interdisciplinary area. And I was very much curious to see other disciplines. I met Christian Silos, a great researcher from Europe. He used genetic theory, genetic coding kind of theory to define social entrepreneurship. Quite interesting, but not appealing to me and my PhD scholar, vagara vagara. So we were doing a lot of stuff, right? Not getting really the real hang of it. Around that time, I read a paper on CSR as essentially contested concept. So there is an interesting story of CSR. I want to tell that story before I move forward. Another research scholar of mine came and says, sir, I want to research on CSR. I say, अपना career बर्बाद मत करो, CSR में कोई research नहीं होता है. Okay, ये practice है, इसमें कुछ नहीं है, इसमें कोई दम नहीं है. You cannot write a thesis. Your thesis will be thoroughly challenged, and in lifetime you will never be able to get your PhD done. If any examiner like me reads your thesis, will reject it. Okay, इसमें possible नहीं है. So yet another frustration कि CSR का क्या करें. तो खैर वो तो छोड़ ही दिया मैंने. I didn't look at the CSR at all. So anyway, so that was, so I was reading a paper which was actually CSR is ECC, essentially contested concept. It struck my sort of attention, and in one go, I was teaching in one university in Korea. I used to go as a visiting professor there to stay for 2-3 months to teach few courses. So I was, what time hota tha when you are sitting in other countries? Okay, so I was reading a lot. So I came a paper called ECC. So CSR is ECC, and the description appealed me. It caught my attention that yes, this is the reason some disciplines don't have definition, and that is the reason CSR doesn't have a definition. CSR have a manifestation. In different country, it is manifesting differently. In India, there is a law, but in other countries there are no laws on CSR. Right? Manifestation alag alag hai, kyunki is a essentially is a debatable definition. Right? So then I said कि actually social entrepreneurship is also a debatable definition, and that's the reason we are not able to zero down on a definition, right? Then I wrote a long note and mailed to Nia. I said, Nia, let us develop a paper, use these instances, etc., etc. The way we write research papers, so same thing. And let us argue that we don't need definition. Believe me, we were writing this paper to overcome our own guilt of not having a definition. Okay, we were not writing for others, but we were writing for our own purpose actually. And that's what Research Trigger does that. So the paper happened and we finished the paper. One journal said, this is not done, it cannot be possible. How can you say that we don't need definition? Okay, the other journal, this JVB is ranked as Financial Times top 50 journal. I already had one publication there, so I knew this journal is very forthcoming. They would like to dig out new discussions, new standards. So they said, so then we sent it to this journal and the paper got published. So it took quite a bit of time, 2 saal lag gaya, but it happened. Then the point I'm making is, there are difficulties of defining the phenomena. What to talk about creating a model in India? Okay, पहले आप define तो करो, model तो बाद में आएगा, policy तो बाद में आएगी, पहले तो define करना सीखें, define नहीं हो रहा था actually. That's the difficulty I'm referring to. So we finished this, it got published. Then this paper gave me a lot of identity. थोड़ा सा अच्छा लगता था, public आपको appreciate करती थी. Oh, you are the same Majumdar. Yes, I should say I'm the same Majumdar. So then I started hearing many PhD scholars, including I'm Calcutta and many others. Thank you, sir. You wrote that paper. It solved my problem in thesis writing. Okay. So the point I'm making is, social entrepreneurship is such a complex phenomenon. I'm narrating a little long story. Even defining itself is a challenge. Okay, what to talk about creating models, right? So this is what we have proposed, and we moved on. So I'll not discuss any further. So we eventually started accumulating an information through practice and readings and writing. That basically what we are saying, it's a collaborative, sustainable business model, discovery of business model, which actually is a nuance of social entrepreneurship. wherein you are not saying whether economic value or social value or environmental value, we are saying it's a collaborative altogether. Okay, so altogether makes the things little undefinable, complex. So we are saying that actually social entrepreneurs keep living a life of discovering of this business model. So it's actually a journey of business model discovery where you balance all the values, social, economic, and environmental. So up to this point, we see that we are comfortable now. So going back to this, so we are saying that social entrepreneurship constitutes subclusters. Social value creation is the overarching phenomena. And there are 4 pieces: social innovation, social entrepreneurial organization, and market orientation. You can do mix and match to define, to make your own definition. So now we are saying we don't need a universal definition, point number 1. And every researcher, every practitioner, every enterprise can create its own definition with the help of these 5. Over a period of time, I read quite a few other research papers, those who have built up on this and given some more suggestions, but nevertheless, that's fine. That's how we create knowledge. So what is coming as a agreement that it's a convergence of value. So discover a business model for convergence of the value. Up to this point, there is an agreement now. So what do social entrepreneurs do as an individual? They solve problem and bring new and positive hope. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs are the hope creators. They say, abhi bhi kuch baki hai, let us do something about it. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. That's what innovation is driven. That's what new technologies are developed. The same logic here. So then 2015-16, there was a committee formed by British Council. British government wanted to do something on social entrepreneurship space. I was fortunate that I was nominated as one of the steering committee members and asked to oversee a quick research, because again the same thing, British government wanted कि India में चल क्या रहा है. Okay, with same difficulty, we are back to square. India में चल कुछ नहीं रहा है because definition ही नहीं है. So then we said, okay, fine. So we hired a research agency. We did something. Okay, so we said that there is no clear definition, legal structure, वो तो है. But for our research of based on 750 social enterprises, this was the working definition which was created. I'll not get into the nuances of that. What is important, which I wanted to highlight, is you will see there is a clustering of social entrepreneurs along the west coast, right from Gujarat till down south, okay, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and up to the northern Kerala, or maybe a little beyond that. So, what is unfortunate here? What is a sad story here? You will see that there's a huge clustering here, and if you go by the degree of industrialization, this is the industrial cluster of this country. This is the industrial belt of this country. So are we saying that social enterprise thrive when the business enterprise thrive? There seems to be very strong correlation here. I'm not getting into the mathematics of it, but that's the message coming on, which is a worrisome thing. If social entrepreneurs are societal problem solver, why they are not existing in Northeast? Why they are not existing in Uttarakhand, hills of Uttarakhand? Why they are not existing in Tarai region of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, right? Where every year you get a flood. Okay, the Ganges, every year you get flood, and people are really under serious distress. Despite having a fertile land, the agriculture productivity is not going up for several such reasons, right? So the hypothesis was actually worrisome, that why the social enterprise do not thrive at a place when it is needed to thrive, where you see more problems. Okay, so this study actually opened up this debate, that is it that there is a natural tendency of social enterprise getting clustering around the business enterprises. So that's something which came about. And then you will see majority of them are registered as private limited companies. Okay, nothing wrong. We are not saying that they should not be private limited companies. Then they can actually, or they should, and so on. So moving forward, we are saying that if there is a need to innovate a solution, okay, we need a different kind of mechanism. The point here is we are needing a different kind of mechanism, different kind of way of thinking, and that is my second part of the discussion now. So what we are saying is social enterprise work for a purpose. So they are purpose-driven enterprise. I'm not saying business enterprises are not purpose-driven. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, the societal value creation, social value creation is the driving purpose. Okay, and as we have methods to solve problem in business enterprises, we have a method to solve societal problem also. So there are some principles, there are some processes, right? So they are governing the whole creation and management of social enterprise. And why we are working for a community and people. I think that's the primary stakeholder we are referring to. So this is again the rearrangement of the word, okay, that what is social value. So social value, we are further describing social value as as positive impact on the primary stakeholder. That's precisely we are calling as social value. And of course, entrepreneurship is creating an enterprise, creating a business model, etc., etc. But interestingly, it's not that business enterprises are waiting silently. That's not true. Business enterprises also have an option to migrate to converse social value in their businesses. So that's also something which social enterprises need to be conscious about. I'm not saying that they need to be worried about, but they need to be conscious about that the business enterprise can also take a revise their business posture and try to behave like a social enterprise. There is a possibility. I'm not saying this is a sense of competition. What I'm saying, there is a possibility. But I'll not discuss this point beyond. So coming back, now the question is, I want to quickly take you through some quick examples of social enterprise. Some of them are classical social enterprise, some of them are offshoots of some other initiative. Some initiative were taken and the social enterprise plugged in to do something about it. So I'll just quickly take you to 4 or 5 examples and then come to some kind of generalization. So this is our alumnus of our master's program in TEST, Mohit Verma. Problem is very simple. Why chicken curry artisan workers in the UP, particularly the Lucknow region, are earning less? And all of us complain that the middlemen are earning more, they are not giving fair wages to artisans. That's the statement, right? So basically Mohit did nothing, but he became an ethical middleman. The question is, the moment we remove the middleman from the system, I think the entire business will collapse, because majority of the case, they are the driver of the business. Okay, the moment we say middleman hatao, which is generally we hear outside, that's wrong. Actually, middlemen are the driver of the business. They initiate the supply chain. If you remove them, they bring the risk capital. They initiate the supply chain. If you remove them, I think the entire thing will collapse. So certainly we need middlemen. You cannot remove the middleman, which is a wrong narrative. We need an ethical middleman. So Mohit became an ethical middleman, simple. And then he started engaging with this woman. Now I'm talking about social value creation. That's the point which I want to drive here. So A, women started getting fair wages. So as I've written, income doubled, okay, in 1 year. The moment you do a fair business, there is a propensity that you start compensating well. And this happened actually. And I've been mentoring Mohit since his inception days. I still visit him. So maybe I can talk with little bit of confidence that this is happening. You can trust me. Okay. Now, what is important is this woman, and there are some men also, they are doing a lot of intricate embroidery work. And certainly the eyes are always under stress. And I have seen many artisans losing their eyesight. And they don't get their eyesight checked up because it's an overhead for them. They can always earn a little bit more for feeding their children rather than going to a doctor and get their eyesight. Can you imagine the small issue which sound to be very, very simple thing for people like you and me? I'm not making any emotional speech here. I'm making very, very specific, rational statement. So buying a spec, getting eyesight checkup is an overhead for them. They will never do it. Small problem. Mohit started creating a system that every year these women will undergo eyesight checkup. And if there is a need for glasses, you can do it. And there are many philanthropic organizations, many actually, who conduct eye camp. There are many who conduct eye surgeries also, cataract surgeries also. So you can integrate with them. So not that it demands a very large investment, but you can do the right kind of collaborator, right kind of negotiator with all these arrangements. So it can be done. So it started happening now. Over and above, what has happened, I met quite a few women actually. I used to go to some locations in the periphery of Lucknow. I started also visiting some women. And you know, chicken curry is a community knowledge. It's a societal knowledge, which is not codified. We find machines which are doing almost the same kind of embroidery work, and probably I will not be able to distinguish what is machine made and what is handmade. But the people who are expert can easily make out what is handmade and what is not handmade. They can easily make out. Now the question is, every knowledge cannot be codified because it will lose its societal value, right? And this knowledge is passed from generation to generation, grandmother to daughter, daughter to her daughter, and so on, right? Or daughter-in-law, something like that, right? And there are quite a few stitches. I never knew that there are many, many varieties of stitches. But when I started engaging with this woman, started meeting them, I could discover that there are more than 30 varieties of stitches which are disappeared because there is no market for them. That's precisely I'm talking about the efficient market system, where things get sort of ignored. Efficiency overrides the knowledge, actually. That's precisely my argument is all about. So in the process, he could revive 30 types of stitches. Now, certainly you may argue that who will buy? There will be a premium market. And of course, there will be a premium market. It's not a mass market phenomena. Certainly, you cannot sell it very cheap because it's something which very labor intensive. Rightly so, fine. So it's a premium market, it's a premium customer, maybe export market, perfect. But nevertheless, in the process, we are able to revive the knowledge of 30 stitches, and I'm sure the knowledge is more. This is precisely the social value creation which I was referring to. So it's not that you give fair wages to the woman, it's not that you only give them specs or eyesight checkup, but what is important is, are you able to dig out the knowledge which is actually on the verge of disappearing? And there are, I'm sure in this country, there are many such knowledges which don't have the market value, contemporary market value, which are actually fading away. Can there be a mechanism? Here we need social entrepreneurs to revive this kind of thing. Okay, so that's one example. Other example I'll quickly run through. So the second one is, this was a kind of consulting assignment which I did in, immediately after coming to TISS. So we did a typical CSR need assessment study, etc., etc. That's only, all of us do that. So this is the case of Northern Goa and Southern Goa. So we were supposed to give advice what could be entrepreneurial way of engaging in CSR implementation. So we can take CSR as a context and entrepreneurship as an agency to implement CSR projects, something like that. So in that sense, you may call it as an innovative business model, but not a very pristine innovation in that sense. So we did that. So I'll just talk about these two cases for a simple reason. There is a reason for convergence of values also. There is a reason for collaborating with the agencies. So I'm talking a period when Mr. Parrikar was the chief minister. I had several possibilities of meeting him and discussion because he sent a couple of invites to me, but it's my misfortune that I could never meet him. And subsequently, he became Central Union Minister, Raksha Mantri, and then of course we know he untimely death. Okay. But what we were proposing is, there are many things which can be done in a collaborative way. We can discover a solution with multiple stakeholders together. So that was the argument here. So would you believe that some CSR projects were designed for the women farmers? That's our irony in this country. Majority of the farming work, or rather 80% of the farming work in India is done by women, but we hardly call women as a farmer. If I ask you to paint a picture of a farmer, you will paint a male picture. But if you go to the detail, actually 80% work is done in the farm is done by women. So that's also an irony. But fortunately, this region which I'm referring to, the men used to migrate to Karnataka and other region for manual labor work. The women, they have their farmland and they used to do small, and they're all marginal farmers, so they used to do farming. So we said, okay, can we do some integration interventions to improve the farm efficiency, etc., etc. So that was done. So coincidentally, Mr. Parrikar got interested. He said, okay, show me what you guys are doing. I was not there personally, but our team was there. So they looked at the project and they say, why are you spending money on this, on this, on this? My agriculture department has fund for this. NABARD has program on this. XYZ department has fund on this. You ask them to participate in this. So would you believe the budget of 100 rupees became budget of 60 rupees? So the point I'm making, you are not only creating social value, you are also creating economic value. Now, what do you do with the surplus 40 rupees? You work with more women actually. So you can broad base your intervention if you bring other stakeholders to contribute. And it happened actually. It happened, it worked very well. And then the women cooperative were formed and the entire initiative was handed over to the cooperative and there was an exit, proper exit. I'll talk about exit a little bit more. So there we actually create an exit route also, that not necessarily that every social entrepreneur have to hold to the initiative all the time. If there is a possibility of handing over to the community, we should do that actually. That's precisely the sustainability of impact I'm referring to. So it happened in this case. Similar thing happened in northern Goa, where a dairy cooperative was created, and that was the time when it was decided that we will invite ICAR scientists, okay, to train the farmers. Okay, we were surprised to know that ICAR scientists never went to village to train the farmer. They said, why not you bring the farmer to the to their training hall, and they will do proper training. They were very well-intentioned, very progressive scientists, but they were generally not going to the village to the farmers. So we said, when we talked to the farmers, we means my team, I was not there physically again, I was there only for 1 day or 2 days. So the farmers were very reluctant कि नहीं साहब वो lab में जाके training hall में बैठने से मतलब we feel uncomfortable. Can they not come to us, and then so that we can take them to our home, and then we can show them what is our problem, हम कहाँ काम करते हैं, and those kind of stuff. So it happened. So I met the group of scientists, very progressive scientists, very smart people. They said, sir, this is the first time we are giving training outside our training hall. Simple initiative that you ask the scientists to connect with the primary stakeholder. The point I'm making is it's not a rocket science all the time. There are small interventions, small initiatives. If you weave it together, that can create a huge social value. And this also worked. This also worked. So I'm moving little fast forward. Similar experiment we have done. We are still active in this Durg region in Chhattisgarh. We are still doing that. So the problem statement was very clear, that how can we create entrepreneurial ecosystem in the problem districts, Naxal affected districts, to be very, very precise, Jagdalpur, Bastar. You know, a lot of things are going on these days. On and off, you hear some Naxal-free Chhattisgarh, which is being sort of targeted in the next March. So we did some work with the district administration, and it worked actually. I'll just cutting short the story, it worked. So we said that probably here the convergence of value is how do you bring district administration as a part of the whole initiative. We always say that no, government interested nahi hai, there are bad officers, etc. etc. There are a lot of things we talk about government, but here is a case when we say no, we can do convergence. We can bring government departments, government institutions together, and we have scaled it up in Durg district, which is still operation, which is still happening as on today, wherein we are connecting agriculture department, we are connecting MSME tool room, we are connecting, you name any agency in that region, okay, including Bhilai Steel Plant. We are bringing them together to talk to our startups and create a composite value, okay, and the SHG women are more than happy to see agriculture officers sitting in front of them and talking to them directly, which they feel is a very difficult task to engage with, right? So here the hypothesis was, can we bring also government on the platform, the same platform, and work with them? It worked actually. So this is yet another model we tried out. I'm just moving a little fast. And this is something which we did. We have about 135 technology startup. Which this program was initiated by BIRAC, that is Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council. That's an investment arm of Department of Biotechnology of Government of India. So we were knowledge partner of a program called Sparsh, wherein we have created about 135 tech startups. So the problem statement was not given to them. They only had the domain, like somebody is interested in agri-tech, somebody is in med-tech, etc., food and nutrition, etc. And they were undergoing an immersion visit to the villages and the town. That's the training part we did. And they will identify a set of problems and select few problems, they will identify set of possible solution. And there will be a committee which will kind of scrutinize all of them and try to zero down on one problem and one solution statement. So we are creating a technology bottom up. You look at the societal problem, think about the problem, depth of the problem, then design possible solutions, the viable solutions, and then you create a prototype, and that's where the program ended. So even if we assume that out of 135, 50% closed down, still we have 60 plus startup. I'm putting very orthodox number here, who are creating technology for society. So this is also yet another manifestation of social enterprise. So this is, and the last one is livelihood, this thing. This project is still on, we are still working there. We are working in the Kashmir Valley in since 2016, much before Article 370 thing happened. We know what a lot of disturbances happen in the Kashmir Valley. So we have been working with them. So here we have about 125 grassroots startups. you may call it as a livelihood project. They are livelihood projects actually. And the success rate is close to 95%. The reason is very simple. All of them are livelihood projects. So if they close down, they will lose their living. So certainly nobody can afford to stop their enterprises. And some of them are tech enterprises, but many of them are not. But some of them are tech enterprises. And we have given very simple sort of principles to them to follow. In this country, probably we need this kind of principles also. That's our discovery process of social enterprise modeling. We said there will be a soft loan at say 1,25,000 or maybe 1,50,000, which will not be given cash. So it will be directly going to set up your enterprise. So the cash transfer will not be there. And there will be a fair mechanism to know how much investment has gone in. And you are supposed to pay it back with zero interest within 1 year. There are cases people took 16 months or 18 months, but almost recovery has happened. There are cases enterprises have paid little extra because they were so humbled that when they needed a support came to us. They said, at least I can pay back 5,000 rupees extra. And believe me, 5,000 rupees is a big amount, very, very big amount. And I have been witnessing this change for last about a decade now. That's rule number one, principle number one. Principle number two is you create one more employment in your village. Okay, and there are cases people have created 5 employments. Okay, and the time given is 18 months, but doesn't mean that we chase him after 18 months. Where is the employment? Aisa kuch nahi hai. People do on their own. There are cases, there was a CSE opened in the village or the sports shop opened in the village. The person started conducting a village level IPL to motivate the youth to start playing. And you can imagine this is very important in places like Baramulla or those kind of places. If youth started coming and playing cricket on the ground every day, it has huge societal impact. It started happening. And the guy went on creating yet another shop which was manned by yet another group of people, right? So he's not only creating employment, he's creating a sporting environment in the village, he's creating a positive ecosystem in the village, and eventually he started engaging with the women also on the sports. So the point I'm making, this is yet another manifestation which can be thought about through social enterprise. So I'll just stop here. So the crux of the thing is networking and collaboration. I think we depend a lot on what we call as social capital. So not necessarily that everywhere we need economic capital. The social capital is equally powerful and it is working. I can give you more examples subsequently. So I'll just move forward. So now the question is, what does sustainability mean to social enterprise? So if this is what social entrepreneurial manifestation is all about, what does it mean? I think sustainability has to be discussed on 2 views. One is the value chain view, which is typically the business model which I was referring to. And the second is sustainability of impact. I'll talk about impact first and then move to value chain. So the question is, which I was discussing before, how do we ensure that the intervention which social entrepreneurs have created stays there? The moment you withdraw yourself, you cannot commit lifelong commitment to the community. You cannot. Nobody can do that actually. And I would say we should not do that also. That unnecessarily create over dependency. Then you become yet another government program where people wait for yet another government subsidy to fill up their gas cylinders. That's the fate of Ujjwala scheme actually. That's precisely happening in Ujjwala scheme. Because they want somebody else to pay for the next cylinder because wo jo free wala quota khatam ho gaya hai, and I will not fill up the next gas cylinder unless somebody else pays for me. That's a bad proposition. That's not the desirable proposition. So how do you hold the impact of the social enterprise? So the first thing is what we have changed the narrative. We have done it actually. What I'm talking is we have already done it. We have removed the word beneficiary. I think the first thing all of us have to do is, there is, in Hindi we call it as a hitgrahi. I don't know what you call in Gujarati, but in Hindi and Marathi they call it hitgrahi. Hitgrahi means typical agency theory. There is a principal and there is an agent. There is a giver and there is a receiver. The moment you start doing that, the giver thinks that he is superior and the receiver thinks that he is little inferior. So we are already creating some kind of giver-receiver relationship. Unfortunately, many subsidy systems in this country are doing that. So we said there is no giver and taker. Everyone is stakeholder. The favor given by the government is received by all of us, including me. I always give my example. Had I not gone to engineering college, wherein the fee was almost nothing, I would have not been standing here today in front of you. Okay, so if you call somebody as a beneficiary, I'm the living example of this benefit. My entire school education was free. That means taxpayers were paying for my school education. Taxpayer paid for my engineering education. The kind of, even if you count inflation and interest rate, believe me, I have not paid any fee. I have not paid anything, or maximum I would have paid 10% of the market price. So the question is not who is the beneficiary. I think all of us in the system are benefited somewhere or other. Had you traveled in the train, you had already availed the benefit. Had you traveled in the public transport, you would have already taken that benefit. So there is no reason to call somebody as a, label somebody as a beneficiary. I think all of us are benefited. In any reasonable economy, all of us are benefited. So the question is, why do we call it as beneficiary? Okay, why not we call it as a stakeholder? It's not a word playing, it's not a semantics, it's actually the attitude towards your work. And if you make it a part of the culture, the whole design changes. I think the language matters, semantic matters, okay, the thought matters, right? That's the first thing we try to do that. So obviously when we migrate from beneficiary to stakeholder, the community voice is being respected. People start expressing what they feel about something. They may not agree with you, or they may agree with you, okay, doesn't matter, right? For example, again coming back to Ujjwala, I've seen, I work a little bit with tribal community in Jhabua, not too far from this place, wherein they feel that the gas burner given along with the Ujjwala scheme cylinder is not good enough to cook food for the family. Because the family size, they cook food at least for 10 people at a time. And the kind of vessels they use for preparing makke ki roti, and you know what I'm referring to, right? None of these vessels can fit in the burner which is being supplied to them. So what I'm saying, if we need a technological intervention, we need technological intervention to fit into the societal norms. This family, they live in hamlets, what we call it, in English we call it as an extended family. Nobody cook food, counting number of members in the family. Suppose the family has 7 or 8 members, they will cook food at least for 12 or 15 people. Right? Because it's very, very seamless that somebody go and eat in somebody else's family. There is no invitation given to anybody. If that is the societal norm, the quantum of food, the nature of food being cooked, right? So certainly community voice have to be heard. Consultation has to happen to design that technology which is talking to the society. So I use the word called socialization of technology. There are many technologies which are there at very, very profound stage, but they don't socialize, they don't talk to people, right? So I think how can we create a system where technology can talk to people? And that's the consultation and voice engagement I'm referring to. So probably we can look at the demand and supply side of the business here differently. And I think what is precisely needed to be thought through is the human dignity. I think the core is how do you restore or rather enhance human value? I think that's precisely the narrative social entrepreneurs are required to build in. Then only the impact sustenance can be assured. Otherwise, it's all going to fizzle out. The people, the impact will be back to square. So that's impact sustainability story. Now, how do you sustain the impact of enterprise, right? So here comes the capability building, which is being less talked about in social enterprise design. So I'm coming to the enterprise design only. The question is, we need to talk about capability building. And when we talk about capability building, generally we believe that we need to provide skill training to the people. Okay, we need to create trained drivers or trained fitters, trained artisans. Perfect, they are needed to be done. But what about building the capacity of the social enterprise to do whatever we are talking about? How they look into it. We don't want people to come and photocopy a solution established elsewhere in the world and say this is your solution, what we call as a carpet bombing of the solution. I think the first thing we'll have to do is stop carpet bombing, understanding the societal context, understanding the cultural context, and then discover, along with the journey, discover the solutions. For that, we need to build up capability of the social enterprise and the team. So there are two sustainability decisions which we need to talk about here is the social entrepreneur's capability, okay? I may be a very great enthusiast social entrepreneur. I feel very bad about agriculture problem. I may feel very upset about the non-access of healthcare facility and so on and so forth. That's fine. But am I capable to hold the solution? Am I capable to design a solution to make that happen? I think that's the larger question which we are posing as an individual, right? So that's one thing which we need to look into. How do I own the responsibility of the solution, okay, to take it to the application? So that's the person-centric. The second is, how do we do the same thing for the social enterprise? When I refer to the social enterprise, how do we, I'll just switch a little bit more. When we talk about social enterprise capability building, we need to talk about entrepreneurs capability building, founding teams capability building, operation teams capability means the operation team is the one who holds charge of implementing beyond founders, right? You need to create a team, right? And organization as an institution. So here comes, if we are, and I think we have great examples in the country. I think the best institutionalized capability building program which comes to my mind is the Arvind Eye Care of Madurai. I think there cannot be a superior example than that. How the entire value chain was designed, and what is good news is Arvind Eye Care system is self-sustaining system. They don't depend on donors. There is no need for donors. They are generating enough surplus to take care of their own growth, right? So I think what is behind this whole story is the institutional dimension of social enterprise, which is a part of the enterprise design, enterprise business model design. So the question is, how do you design the structure of the institution? Okay, I think the time has come, the social enterprise, or all of us have to think through how you think through social and institutional framework, wherein we are saying there is a deep engagement between the stakeholders, right? There's a deeper conversation with the stakeholder and how stakeholder can take charge of the thing. I'm referring to the Kashmir Valley example. How this person thinks, nobody forces him to pay more. How this person thinks that he need to pay little extra so that one more person gets benefited of this facility. Nobody trained him to think so. Nobody trained him to think so. Nobody enforced that guy, you got 1.5 lakh, 1.55 आप pay करो. नहीं, ऐसा किसी ने नहीं बोला. Nobody has said like that. This is where the institutional mechanism works actually. And I can give you one more example in Kashmir. There is a very interesting example. There is a girl called Zahida. She comes from typical Muslim family, very poor Muslim family. In the periphery of Srinagar, she has opened a garment shop because her problem statement was, women, you know, Kashmiri women, they are not very open to buy their attire, particularly the one who comes from the poor background, to go to a shop where a man is selling. They don't feel very comfortable, though they go there, but they don't feel very comfortable. And this was her own problem statement. She was saying, I had a lot of discomfort. I believe, like me, there are many women who have a discomfort in doing that. So I want to create a woman garment shop, including undergarment, which is a big pain point in Kashmiri women. And I will create a shop which is comfortable for the woman to come and buy whatever they want. Right? Perfect. As a problem statement is perfect. So she opened a shop right in the middle of the marketplace. It's not a shop which is behind the street so that women just navigate through and find us. She said, no, it has to be a shop for the pleasure of shopping. I don't want to take it out. That's the social value I'm referring to. It happened. Then she discovered there are a lot of women who come, sometimes they come with a kid and they find it very difficult to find a washroom. In typical marketplace of that kind, there is always a men washroom, or men can go anywhere, but women can't. And she said, I was feeling pain that the women were searching for a washroom. So within her shop, she has created a one corner kind of thing, a woman washroom. She said, this is the washroom available. So it solves problem of the women who come as a customer to this Zahida's shop, right? Perfect. Then the shopkeepers in the market, they come requesting Zahida that we also get a lot of women customers, and sometimes they also have problem to access washroom. Will it be okay if they come and use washroom of your shop even if they are not your customers? Are you following me what I'm saying? Societal value creation. This is precisely the societal change and value creation we are talking about, right? It's not that I sell one more garment, I earn little more money. Okay. The question is, how do you institutionalized way, how do you look at the enterprise, and how do you create a lasting impact in the system, right? I'm sure everybody would remain attentive to Zahida's shop. The women who have not come to her shop to shop will come at least next time, because now they know there is a shop where there is a washroom for the woman. I'm sure it creates that kind of positivity, it creates that kind of brand value. So there could be social brand value also. And this, I believe, is far more sustainable, okay, than creating an artificial brand of its kind, right? I'm not against the branding narrative, but what I'm saying, probably these are social branding which we can talk about. So the question is, how do you act on this, creating the institutional framework, institutional structure, right? And create something which creates a influencing mechanism, learning mechanism in the system, which is where I'm saying we are moving towards an enterprise and thinking like institutions. And we can train people. I think there is a possibility of training people. There is a possibility of bringing this kind of narrative in front of, and we can provoke our startups to think like that. There is a possibility. I just gave one example. There could be more examples of this kind. So social enterprise as an institution need a business model design. So I'm going back to the classical literature, and one of my favorite authors, Clayton Christensen. I'm sure many of you would have read him. Amazing person, amazing writer. Simple business model framework, which I find it very handy. I teach this framework in my strategic classes. So I think I can always look at the whole thing from the institutional lens and start creating a sustainable impact. So I'll close this discussion. I guess I'm close to 60 minutes. So I'm leaving some thoughts, right, on two fronts. A, when we talk about sustainability and the social enterprise, there has to be a way to continuously think through what is feasible as a market and what is my capability. I think it's always moving this side to right to left and left to right. I think always we need to do that. And when we talk about feasibility, it's not market alone. It's the societal engagement, it's the social value. Why, despite having a clean energy source in the form of Ujjwala, gas cylinder or gas burner, why gas cylinder has not, usage of gas cylinder is not becoming a part of day-to-day cooking habit of tribal family. I'm referring to that also as a feasibility question. Okay, if feasibility exists, the need exists, then how do we make capability available? So I think I would always kind of give this framework to ask the startups to, or social enterprise to match these two. Okay, and here I'm also referring technology here, and technology sits in the middle. I believe, of course, I would like to take little broader view of technology. Technology is not about the machine and the gadgets, but technology is actually the knowledge. The knowledge piece of technology is equally important, what we call as know-how, right? So technology feasibility, market feasibility, supply chain feasibility, and the financial feasibility. At the end of the day, it has to be financially efficient solution. One cannot do charity lifelong. We can do charity for a while, but not lifelong, right? So how do you make sure that the social startups or social enterprise become eventually self-dependent? That's precisely the sustainability of the enterprise I'm referring to. So capability, feasibility matching. So if this is my last piece, how do we go about it? Okay, so I would like to give some framework pointers, right? So what need to be sustained so far as social enterprise design? Because to me, sustainability of social enterprise is more a design question rather than impact question. It becomes impact question later on. First question is, have you designed it that way? Most of the time we have not. And we over-expect, like for example, we have given free gas cylinder and we are expecting you to use it and get out of this smokeless sort of smoke. We want to be in the smoke-free cooking environment. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Have we designed it that way? I think there is a design problem. And there are many programs which have got a design problem. So I'm referring to that. So the question what we need to answer is the identification of the problem. I'm sorry. I'm pressing some right. What did I do? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. So, yeah. So the design question is identification of the right problem. Is it the problem? And there are many cases, problem is only a symptom. Children not going to school is a problem. Okay, it's a symptom actually. Is a symptom. Where is the problem? Probably problem is the teaching method. And I have been sort of staying with tribal families pretty long. Tribal children get really switched off the way the teaching happens in the village school, because by nature, by culture, they are a very sharp observer. We know that Eklavya story, right? So how he learned? Okay, he didn't attend a coaching class. He didn't go to a classroom and learned it. He learned it through observation. That's the tribal behavior. They are a very keen observer. Okay, most of our teaching system is not based on developing that keenness to observe. It is telling type of education, which they feel very uncomfortable. I'm just giving an example. So if somebody says that why children don't go to school, the problem is this teaching system, the learning system. It's not problem with the children actually, right? So do we ever ask this question? Are we identifying the right problem? That's the first question. And for that, we need to have immersion. We cannot be a village visitor and find out agriculture problem. You'll have to get your soil hand dirty with the farmers to understand what is the issues in agriculture. I think agri-tech solutions cannot work in the laboratory alone. It has to be, the problem statement has to come from the field. And there are several cases this remains a problem. So that's one. So engagement is important. And then identify the primary stakeholder. I'll give you one more example. As I said a few minutes before, 80% of agriculture activity is done by women. But how many machines in agriculture are designed for women? Just look at the handle size, height, width. Everything is assumed that a man will drive it. I'm not saying women are less powerful. I'm saying the stature of women is different, right? The conduct is different, right? How many agriculture machines are there which is thinking that women will operate this machine? Hardly any. Hardly any. So how do you identify the primary stakeholder for whom you are solving this problem? I think that's the larger question all of us have to ask ourselves when you refer to the design, right? And so on. There are many such problems exist. Fortunately, there is one startup in Akola in Maharashtra who has designed agriculture machine for women actually, and he is doing reasonably well because women find it very easy to operate. So there are people who are thinking technology innovation from that lens, from primary stakeholder lens. And then this innovation needs capability and capacity creation. Whether you want to outsource the manufacturing or do you want to manufacture yourself? If that is the case, what is your welding capability? What is your machining capability? And so on and so forth. I think all of them put together. Then building capacity around the processes and systems around that, okay? And then creating a sustained business model which creates sustainable social, economic and environmental problem. So that is precisely answering the what part of sustainable design problem. The second which is important is how. So we have the agenda right. How part is basically when we conduct the business, okay, how do you design that triangle thing actually? Okay, how do you design the supply chain? How do you define the sourcing? How do you work on the cost management? How do you work on the profitability or whatever it may, investment and so on and so forth. I think all these are important, but there are cases when we start solving societal problem, there are cases the consumer doesn't pay, somebody else pays. I think if you take example of Akshay Patra, I'm sure all of us know about it, okay? Akshay Patra, children are not capable to pay for their food and that's the reason they are going to school. There are many cases, children go to school only for food because that's probably the only meal they find in a day which is substantial enough to have in the entire day because the parent would have not have the capability. Similar kind of experiment was done by Harish Andeji also in Selco, where the chargers were put, mobile chargers were put in the school where the children carries the lantern and solar charging system, right? So there are many such incentives. So the question is, there are cases, we'll have to create different kind of incentives so that the people who are not able to pay, somebody else have to pay. Now, who is the person who will pay? I think that's also a business model question. Okay, I think we'll have to discover that. It may not come very handy immediately. We'll have to probably discover that. So these are the questions: who pays and who consumes? I think these are the questions we'll have to find out, and accordingly we'll have to develop our financial model. So these are some pointers. So I think what comes very important for social enterprises to think sustainability from the design lens, and that's precisely my argument here. I'm not referring design as I've informed before from the climate perspective or from the climate change perspective, though they are there, but that's not my discussion. My discussion is how do we retain the impact, sustainable, how do you sustain the impact and how do we sustain the social enterprise. I think these are the two questions which I try to do. Probably it demands a lot of exploration, a lot of understanding, a lot of experimentation, because every context is different. That's where I started with, actually. Even India itself, as I said, country of complexity and contradiction. Maybe the solution which works in Gujarat may not work in MP or vice versa, right? So how do we experiment through this exploration journey and express ourselves to say that, look, this seemed to be a feasible solution. Can we collaborate together and do something which is meaningful and which is sustainable for the society? So thank you very much. Thanks for the patient listening. We have some time for questions and conversation.
Thank you, Professor Satyajit. I think that was super insightful. And the fact that we live in India and have so many social problems as well apparent in our everyday lives, I feel like this business model of how to think and go about identifying social enterprises and entrepreneurs also in our daily lives, it will help us question it the right way as to who the stakeholders and beneficiaries are, how it is impacting the social environment, and how we can contribute in our small ways and find sustainable solutions which will help better the society, right? And then with time, make it scalable as well. Like you said, that example of the lady in Kashmir, I think it was brilliant. As a solution as well as a social experiment. So thank you for that. We'll move on to questions from the audience. And also, not just to mention, I really liked your approach of not taking the podium and actually engaging with the crowd by being at the same level as them. I think I'm going to incorporate that in all of my future dialogues. But the crowd has been super interested and nobody has blinked an eye, to be honest. So thank you for that, from the crowd. And I am looking forward to questions from you guys to make the most of our professor who's standing here. And ask him anything that's on your mind regarding social entrepreneurship and sustainability, even technology for that matter. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm open for conversation. Yeah, thank you very much. Sure.
So, like, you can say experimentation versus ideas. So, in that sense, I would love to more elaborate in that part. Like,
okay,
is it a ongoing journey or starting an enterprise and then evolving, or how it will navigate, or from both the sides?
Perfect. So I believe, particularly when we talk about social enterprise, right? I believe it's not linear, right? Here is a problem and here is a solution, and you just go and connect both of them. It's not like, it's like spiral. We'll have to do a little bit, something will work, something will not work, then go back, do a little bit to the drawing board, redesign it, experiment with people. And what I have seen, if I count Chota, Bada and mid-sized enterprises, I would have mentored at least 300 to 400 social enterprises. And always people express the apprehension that my stakeholder will not listen to me. How do I approach farmers? I said first thing is, not I say, even my other collaborators also say, in fact, I have one of my best friends, he comes from tribal family. He says, समझाना नहीं है, समझना है. I think that sorts out the problem. Okay, just the easiest thing I do, and of course, I spend a lot of time in villages. First thing I do is, I accept whatever food and drink they offer. And I seen invariably the moment I get into some household, sir बैठिए. Naturally, मेरे attire में so sir वाला ही address आता है. Had I been going in some other attire, they will address different. But that doesn't matter. उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, right? So if you go and they say, even summer month, probably they will offer fresh Nibu Pani. Okay, the best thing is drink it. Because the first question comes, वो Bisleri का bottle. I think first get out of this Bisleri water syndrome. Well water is far purer than any municipal purified water. And the moment we get into the conversation, I think this spiral journey starts. Spiral journey starts. Just a conversation, how are you? Okay, in fact, this chula wala problem, would you believe that I discovered while eating food in one tribal family, I saw the gas cylinder was kept in a corner and उसके ऊपर एक घड़ा रखा हुआ था. It was used as a घड़ा stand. I said, भाई साहब ये use नहीं करते, बोले नहीं, बहुत महंगा है. But when I look at his mobile phone, he is using a smartphone. He has a motorcycle in his house, right? तो इसकी affordability नहीं है, but it's an easy way to say कि महंगा है. Okay, I didn't say that I don't, मतलब मुझे यकीन नहीं हो रहा महंगा है, but what is the issue? Then he opened up कि सर खाना नहीं बन पाता है, and he narrated a lot of other interesting story. I think what is needed is thinking that there is always a spiral. I think all of us have to train our mind to think a spiral, not a straight line. I think all of us are into straight line. Here is the solution, take it, and that's it. I know what you need. I think it should be the other. I don't know anything. Please help me to learn. Please help me to learn, right? And I'm sure we can discover immense amount of technological solution for very simple problems. Okay, technology can do wonders. And I totally disagree that the community is not technology savvy. Community is rather more technology savvy. They are far more technology savvy. They ask me, sir, आप Facebook पे दिखते नहीं हो. Okay, and I say मैं Facebook में हुई नहीं. तो they laugh at me. अरे आप बॉम्बे में रहते हो, Facebook में नहीं हो. मैंने कहा नहीं, I'm not in Facebook. I'm not a Facebooker. So who is more tech savvy? I think that puts a question. I think this spiral thinking is important. I think, in fact, probably we'll have to train our children also. I think our education system also have to help this spiral thinking. And I think it's a fun. Believe me, it's a fun. Okay, बहुत मजा आता है. आप उस गेम में एक बार घुस जाओ. You really enjoy. Okay, जब आपके पास कोई definitive solution नहीं है, solution आप discover करते चलते हो, थोड़ा सा सही गलत होता रहता है. I think it's a fun. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Sir, first of all, thank you so much for such an interesting session. Sir, I have one question. In a country like India, where there is a lot of diversity, there is a lot of change in the language, the demography is very, so also at the same time, sir, technology और innovation भी बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है. So as a person who's involved in the ecosystem, जैसे आप कह रहे हैं कि हम करते करते समझते हैं कुछ चीजें, तो एक पार्ट हो गया सर आपका academics. At the same time, you are also involved in the ecosystem where you are helping people on ground. Yeah. So how do you manage both the things because of the pace of the increasing pace in the society while you are in the academic finding solutions, defining problems, and when you are on the ground with the rapid changes, how are you managing that space?
Okay, you're asking this to me actually. Okay, fine. I believe me, it's not rocket science. It's not so difficult. Okay, I believe if you are genuinely interested, keeping the antennas open to understand what's going on, I think then all this comes very natural. To me, it comes natural. And believe me, there was a time what you call as a mid-career crisis. So I am a practicing engineer. I left my job as an engineer, then became consultant, and then became teacher actually. So my entry into academics is what I call as a backdoor entry. So I'm not a trained academician. Okay, probably I'm more a trained engineer actually. So anyway, so what happens is when you started seeing things not working as an engineer, maybe in medical profession also things would have been the same. In other professions things would have been same. Okay, you complain about the system and say, oh, sab kharab hai, government offices corrupt hai, business kharab hai, market kharab hai, blah blah blah, and then leave it like that. Second is कि चलो देखते हैं और क्या हो सकता है kind of thing, which is actually an entrepreneurial behavior. So for I believe as a teacher, it's my responsibility. Before I teach entrepreneurship, I should demonstrate entrepreneurial behavior myself. I think that's the first thing I understood. That's one. Number two is I felt there are a lot of business solutions which doesn't apply. That there are many things which are good in textbooks. I'm not saying textbooks are wrong, but it doesn't apply because, as you correctly said, the world is moving much faster. So what is being written in the textbook, and I always say that by the time textbooks are printed, it's already outdated. so if you believe that, there are a lot of knowledge which is there, which is yet not appropriate, there is more knowledge which is coming through. I think that pushes you to discover new knowledges probably. So, which is also an entrepreneurial behavior probably. So I think this zeal for finding out new things actually can push anybody. So I have retired this year, so I'm already a senior citizen, but I feel that I have started traveling more after retirement because now my compulsions are less, that I can really travel more. Of course, my wife complains that अब तुम घर पे रहते नहीं हो, पहले तो किसी बहाने घर पे रहते थे, अब उतना भी नहीं रहते हो, but fine, that's okay. So I think as an academician, as a researcher, we'll have to push ourselves little beyond. I think we'll have to discover new knowledge. I think that's my moral duty. Yeah.
Sir, do you think social reform is just like social entrepreneurship?
Ji?
Earlier we have already discussed regarding, sir, the social entrepreneurship.
Ji.
Do you think this is just like earlier those who were doing like social reform?
There could be different manifestation of social enterprises. So one is social reform could be one manifestation. So what we call as systemic change, right? System change. And there are many things which became a systemic change because the frame of reference has changed. Typically, removal of sati could be one, probably. The frame of reference has changed. So that's why sati has become a law. So anti-sati became a narrative and it became a law, and so on. Societal value also changes. So probably some part of the social reform is actually entrepreneurial. So I would answer in a simple way that not necessary that social entrepreneurial thinking or action will always result into creating a social enterprise, not necessary. It can manifest differently. It can manifest, as you correctly, as a social reform, and that's fine. Sometimes it manifests in creating a business. That's also a possibility. So, but what is important is this stakeholder-based thinking of putting the things together. I think that's important. So maybe some social reforms can fall into the domain of social entrepreneurial way of solving problem. Possible. Yeah.
Actually, sir, in this case, we generally think about nowadays in materialistic world, we always think about the profit generations.
Yes.
And how can you think about that this type of things will be sustained?
No, we are not saying that you should not generate profit. That's the first thing we do. Okay, so like I teach to master students also, the first thing we say, social work doesn't mean, social work means societal benefit work. Doesn't mean that you'll have to give out your jeans and t-shirts. Please don't do that. That doesn't mean that you'll have to give out your choice of stylish shoes or stylish car. You deserve that, you should have it. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that मुझे sacrifice करना पड़ रहा है इसलिए क्योंकि मैं समाज का काम कर रहा हूँ. Sacrifice करना ना कहना आपकी choice है. यदि आपको लगता है कि आपको धोती कुर्ता में comfortable लगता है, ये आपकी choice है. आपको लगता है टी-शर्ट और जीन्स में आपको अच्छा लग रहा है, टी-शर्ट जीन्स आपकी choice है. So it's your choice. So make your choice clear. First thing is that. Number one. Number two is what we are saying is professionalizing social work, wherein you are not saying that profit earning is bad, which was an old narrative actually. पहले ज़माने में नैरेटिव होता था कि मुनाफा कमाना खराब है. मुनाफा कमाना खराब नहीं है. प्रॉफिट इज नॉट बैड, प्रॉफिटेयरिंग इज बैड. मुनाफा खोरी खराब है, मुनाफा कमाना खराब नहीं है. मुनाफा, द प्रॉफिट, वन ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स सेड, इज ऑक्सीजन एक्चुअली. इट्स ऑक्सीजन, राइट? अनलेस यू जनरेट ऑक्सीजन, हाउ डू यू सर्वाइव? ठीक है, बट ऑक्सीजन कैन नॉट बी अ पर्पस. सोशल इंपैक्ट इज द पर्पस, राइट? Oxygen is a part of your journey. It cannot be the purpose. I think we'll have to be reasonably clear that we are not living to inhale oxygen. We are inhaling oxygen to live a meaningful life. So the meaning of life in profession is important, and the personal life is also important. So we are saying just discover your meaning, which is a discovery process. You don't get the meaning so easily. But create an enterprise which is good for yourself, good for the society, not harming the environment, and generating enough surplus for the future. I think that's precisely the narrative.
One more question, sir.
Sure.
Actually, sustainability is directly concerned with that is that works for the future concern.
जी
In the same way, if we think about the social problems,
जी
there were the social problems,
जी
still there is problems,
जी
and in the coming years there will be a problem.
नहीं certainly
So this means social entrepreneurship should be continued till a long time.
करेक्ट एक्चुअली यही मैं थोड़ा सा इसके एक स्टेप आगे जा रहा हूँ इस सवाल के. देयर आर स्टूडेंट्स व्हेन आई टीच इन द क्लासरूम दे से कि सर आप बोलते हो कि सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योर को प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करके निकल जाना चाहिए, तो हमारे रोजी रोटी का क्या होगा, हमारे लिविंग का क्या होगा. एज यू करेक्टली सेड, you hand over this enterprise to the community will take charge of it, which is a good news कि अब ये सेल्फ सस्टेनिंग मोड में चले गई. आप दूसरा बड़ा प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करो ना, क्योंकि अब आपके पास अनुभव है प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने का. पहले आप नए थे इसलिए आपने बहुत सारी गलतियां की हैं, अब आप गलती कम करो और बड़ा प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करो. वो प्रॉब्लम कम्युनिटी को दे दो अपना टेक केयर करने के लिए. सो नाउ यू सॉल्व अ बिगर प्रॉब्लम. दैट्स प्रिसाइसली द जर्नी व्हिच इट्स नॉट माय स्टेटमेंट. वन ऑफ माय sort of technologist friend, he's a microbiologist, उसके बहुत अच्छे काम है. I'm sure आपने कोविशील्ड का नाम सुना होगा, ये उसका प्रोडक्ट है. हाँ या नो सॉरी कोविशील्ड नहीं, दैट RT-PCR किट, सेल्फ टेस्टिंग किट, कोविशील्ड नहीं, सॉरी व्हाट इज दैट जो अक्षय कुमार एंडोर्स करते थे. नहीं वैसे नहीं. एनीवे अभी मैं उसके उलझन में पड़ रहा हूँ, बूढ़ा हो गया हूँ, भूल जाता हूँ मैं. ओके, सो द पॉइंट ही सेज कि एक्चुअली जब हम सोल्यूशन की बात करते हैं, मैच्योरिटी की बात करते हैं, सो यू मूव फ्रॉम प्रोडक्ट टू प्रोसेस टू प्लेटफॉर्म, राइट. नाउ इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग वन प्रोडक्ट यू क्रिएट अ प्लेटफॉर्म वेयर मल्टीपल प्रोडक्ट्स कैन कम. तो एक्चुअली बिजनेस में तो आप ग्रोथ कर सकते हो ना. आप एक प्रोडक्ट बना के डिलीवर कर रहे थे, यू कैन बिकम एन एग्रीगेटर ऑफ मेनी प्रोडक्ट्स एंड स्टार्ट क्रिएटिंग अ प्लेटफॉर्म, राइट. सो एक्चुअली यू कैन ग्रो इन योर बिजनेस ऑल्सो इफ यू स्टार्ट गिविंग आउट द एग्जिस्टिंग problem solution in the hands of the community. Actually you can do that. So precisely this is the way we can move out from one problem to a bigger problem. Okay, problem to rahega, we'll have to keep solving the problem. Maybe we can think on those lines.
मैं पूछ रहा था कि जैसे AMA है तो इसका कार्य है कंटिन्यूइंग एजुकेशन और नॉलेज शेयर करते रहना. बिकॉज अगेन प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट अगर देखो तो यह कि सोसाइटी अगर नॉलेज अपग्रेड करती रहती है तो ग्रोथ होता है. तो वुड यू कंसीडर दिस एज अ सोशल एंटरप्राइज?
आई थिंक सो. दो इट प्रॉब्ली इसकी कल्पना एंटरप्राइज मोड में नहीं हुई थी, लेकिन ये इवॉल्व हुआ एंटरप्राइज की तरह प्रॉब्ली. तो कभी कभी ऐसा भी होता है, मतलब एवोल्यूशन प्रोसेस आपको, मतलब ये भी डिस्कवरी का प्रोसेस है. ये भी किसी ने कभी डिस्कवर किया कि अब हम प्लेटफॉर्म का काम करेंगे. जो भी मैं कह रहा था कि अब हम सिर्फ एक पीस में नहीं, हम प्लेटफॉर्म बन जाएंगे वेयर मल्टीपल नॉलेजेस कैन फाइंड learning opportunities. So now we are acting as a platform. ये actually organization की maturity भी denote करती है. This is how the enterprise is mature also.
क्योंकि ये organization कैसा हो गया कि continuity is ensured through mechanism, design ऐसी करी गई है.
This is institutionalization जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं.
आप जो कह रहे थे.
Exactly.
तो मैं point पे ये आ रहा था कि actually यहाँ पे एक center खुला है.
जी.
TV राव सेंटर फॉर इंस्टीट्यूशन बिल्डिंग.
जी.
और उसका फर्स्ट राउंड टेबल
जी
थोड़े 1-1.5 महीने पहले हुआ था, वेयर
जी
टीवी राव सर IIM के प्रोफेसर थे और इज डायन ऑफ HR.
जी
एंड देन ही डोनेटेड सम अमाउंट हियर एंड देन क्रिएटेड सेंटर.
जी.
उनका पर्पस ये है कि अहमदाबाद की सराउंडिंग में
जी
जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस है,
जी
मतलब जो नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट है, प्रॉफिट जरूर करते हैं बट उनका पर्पस प्रॉफिट नहीं है. प्रॉफिट इज टू continuously modernize, upgrade, put money back into the system so that it continuously works.
Correct.
तो उन सब में ऐसी चीज डालने की एडिशनल कोशिश करें कि ताकि उनके वैल्यूज जो है ना वो सालों तक मेंटेन रहे.
Absolutely.
उनका पर्पस लॉस्ट नहीं हो जाए, कभी टर्निंग लेने पड़े तो लेने पड़े अकॉर्डिंग टू सिस्टम. तो प्रोबेबली जब उनके आगे प्रोग्राम्स होंगे तो मैं भी चाहूँगा कि आपकी अगर कन्वीनियंस है तो आप उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करें, क्योंकि
Sure.
उनका मकसद बहुत बढ़िया है.
जी
दैट वाज वन. अभी एक क्वेश्चन है मेरा
जी
कि एएमए ये प्रोग्राम्स तो करते रहते हैं,
जी
बट हम लोग ने यहाँ पे क्या किया है कि हर महीने हम 2 से 4 स्कूल जो म्यूनसिपल स्कूल्स है
जी
सराउंडिंग अहमदाबाद है ना, अहमदाबाद के
जी, जी।
अलग अलग एरियाज में जो है,
जी
उनके बच्चों को, जैसे एक बार में बच्चों को लेके आए, हमारी बस जाती है, 70-80 बच्चे यहाँ पे आते हैं,
जी
दिन भर यहाँ पे उनको लाइब्रेरी दिखाई जाती है,
जी।
क्लीनलीनेस देखते हैं.
जी
कई लोग उनके साथ निष्कर्ष करने के लिए आते हैं.
जी
अभी तक 250 से ज़्यादा स्कूल के बच्चे यहाँ पे आ चुके हैं. फिर उनको
जी।
छोड़ने भी जाते, दिन पर
जी।
खाना भी खिलाते,
जी
फिर बच्चे बहुत खुश होके जाते हैं.
जी
बट अगर हमें इम्पैक्ट मेजर करना है
जी
तो आप कुछ रास्ता दें, क्योंकि हमने अभी तक उन बच्चों पे क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ है इसका,
वो सोचना पड़ेगा.
वो थोड़ा कभी आप सोच के यू कुड राइट टू अवर एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर, इट विल कम टू अस
Sure.
एज टू, क्योंकि तभी हम लोग उसमें कुछ वो स्पाइरल इफेक्ट आप जो कह रहे हैं कि भाई, क्योंकि आपने एक अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया कि ट्रेनर जाते ही नहीं थे, मतलब ट्रेनर फार्मर्स को अपनी इंस्टीट्यूट में बुलाते थे. अभी हम लोग भी यहाँ बच्चों को यहाँ रहे हैं, बट उसमें कोई फर्क करे या उसका इम्पैक्ट कैसे मेजर करे, थोड़ा कुछ आप
Sure,
सोच के हमें लिखना.
सोचेंगे,
थैंक यू
जी,
वेरी मच.
जी जी थैंक यू. जी जी सर. Thank you, sir.
Good learning for, at least for me, from the questions and the talk.
जी
When we are talking about social entrepreneurship, we are having social and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
These are two words.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about entrepreneurship, it is again related to business.
Business, yeah.
So if you see on a large scale, there are number of NGOs, they are doing certain work, and then it is being said that ये तो सेवा है,
हाँ.
उसमें क्या है यार, तुम कमाने की बात करते हो.
Correct.
So this particular subject is like, we need, probably I feel that people, learned people like you can bridge the gap between this seva versus it can be business.
Yes.
And for that, probably we can, this is like, if you see this kind of program, if you have earning 10x by 10 steps, so probably ये पूरा whole भर चुका होता. But then we are talking about something which is related to the certain section of the society. So what we should do, what are your thoughts? How we can bridge this gap between the business and social
Society.
entrepreneurship or goals, sir? That is what I would like to know from you.
जी actually जो which I said I will not discuss. Even we can change the we can take that route also, which I didn't. वो मैंने आपको दिखाया था ना. जी जी
बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है.
जी नहीं आप बताएं प्लीज. आप मैं बाद में आता हूँ. आप प्लीज बताएं. जी या जी.
Sir, many like Paliwal, Kirkira Sahib is my guru because I started my journey of a lean practice as a lean practitioner under him.
जी.
And of course, we have worked several projects with sir also.
जी जी
We are lean practitioner and helping many institutes and the companies for the implementation of lean
system.
And we are learning, of course.
Excellent.
So we started one drive. We were helping the roadside vendors, those who are actually working on kind of वो जो कुछ झूला बनाते हैं, नेत्र का जैसा बोलते हैं. So we were helping them to have the visualization of their shop. They are doing very good work,
Right.
but they are not able to promote themselves because they are roadside vendor.
Yes.
So we were helping them
Excellent.
how you can visualize yourself, and that way you can bring more business rather than going on to the
Excellent.
bigger shops.
Excellent.
So we started this, but unfortunately the sustainability part where we could not able to manage, which I learned today,
Okay.
and therefore we could not able to continue. But yes, definitely this is the area of interest apart from lean or lean practices. How we can bring this to the rest of the people. So we are doing that activities along with the lean, sir.
Excellent. Yeah.
I have some question. Sir, if you allow, madam, if you allow some question. Sir, because your PhD is into small scale businesses.
वो सर जॉब बचाने के लिए किया था PhD, वरना कोई प्रोफेसर नहीं बनाता। बिना PhD वाले को लोग प्रोफेसर नहीं बनाते हैं, तो उसको भूल जाए।
नहीं, मैं उसके संदर्भ में ये बात कर रहा हूँ
जी
कि जैसे गवर्नमेंट ने एक स्कीम निकाली है लीन मैनेजमेंट की, जो इंडिया के स्मॉल स्केल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बिजनेस के लिए बहुत रिलेवेंट है।
जी
अभी हो क्या रहा है, प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट की बात करूँ तो, कि लीन सर करवाते हैं क्लस्टर्स को, आपने क्लस्टर का भी उल्लेख किया था यहाँ पे। क्लस्टर्स में लीन करने के बाद कई बार वो वैल्यूज काफ़ी साल तक रहती है।
जी
ज़्यादातर बार जो है वो इम्पैक्ट जो है उस टाइम पे हो जाता है, बट ऑनगोइंग बेसिस पे उसको मेंटेन करना इज समथिंग दैट गवर्नमेंट कैन नॉट डू। गवर्नमेंट एक इंटरवेंशन करके बाहर निकलती है, बट समझो अगर ऐसे कोई सोशल एंटरप्राइज क्रिएट हो जाए जो मैं इनके लिए तो रिपीटेशन है मेरा ये सुझाव, बट समझो पूरी GIDC को लीन कर दिया,
करेक्ट,
और इसके बाद ऐसी गुजरात में 66 या ज़्यादा GIDCs है, सब में लीन पहुंच गया अगर
जी,
तो हमारा जो मतलब एक लीन से क्या होगा कि वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है वो इफ़िशिएंट हो जाएंगे।
बिल्कुल
इफ़िशिएंट हो जाएंगे तो एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी ज़्यादा होगी, बिजनेस भी बढ़ेगा। तो अगेन इन अ वे वो जरूर प्रॉफिट कमाते हैं, बट इन अ वे इट इज़ अ सोशल कॉज को वो अट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं। और अगर ये हो गया तो जो 2047 की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग, उसमें भी इतना बड़ा योगदान होगा।
बिल्कुल
सर का योगदान है, जैसे जपन सर ने PhD भी किया लीन में, बुक्स भी लिख रहे हैं, बड़े बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, टाटा के ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को भी वो ट्रेन करने के लिए पूरे इंडिया भर में जाते हैं
जी।
साथ साथ में हमारे जैसे छोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन माइक्रो बिजनेस है
जी।
वहाँ पे भी लीन करवाते हैं
जी।
नाउ आई विल से कि इतना बड़ा इम्पैक्ट
जी।
हमारी सप्लाई चेन है, हमारी माइक्रो होते हुए हमारी भी एक सप्लाई चेन है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
तो सप्लाई चेन में उन्होंने लीन किया। मैं 6 महीने के बाद देखने गया, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में 40% स्पेस बच गई, उसने वो जगह भाड़े कर दी।
करेक्ट।
और इतना बढ़िया काम हुआ कि हमारे संस्थान से भी उनका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ज्यादा क्लीन दिख रहा था। मैं तो राजी हो गया। बट मैं ये सोच रहा हूँ कि कैसे पूरे गुजरात भर में या पूरे इंडिया भर में ऐसे सोशल एंटरप्राइजेस क्रिएट हो जाए जो ये लीन वाली जर्नी जो है सबकी कराते रहे, वो प्रॉफिट करते रहेंगे। बट मे नॉट बी टोटली मतलब उसमें से 10x 5x की बात शायद नहीं होगी। तो कुछ आप थोड़ा उस पर प्रकाश डालें और ऐसा कुछ सोचे कि कैसे ऐसा वटपुरुष बना दे जो इम्पैक्ट भी करे और सस्टेनेबल भी हो। आपका जो दोनों मॉडल है,
तो वहां पे वापस मैं उसी लॉजिक पे जाऊंगा, वी शुड स्टार्ट एक्टिंग लाइक अ प्लेटफॉर्म। एग्जैक्टली वही लॉजिक है कि इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग विथ 1 कंपनी 2 कंपनी 3 कंपनी, यू से हियर इज अ प्लेटफॉर्म एंड वी मोटिवेट पीपल टू जॉइन द प्लेटफॉर्म। एंड वहीं से फिर क्रॉस लर्निंग भी होगी, कुछ प्रैक्टिसेस भी होंगे। मेरा ये मानना है, थोड़ा सा मैं डिफर करूंगा, जो आमतौर पे हम लोग बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस की बात करते हैं, मैं थोड़ा सा उससे सहमत नहीं हूँ। मुझे लगता है बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस नहीं, बेस्ट प्रिंसिपल्स की बात करनी चाहिए। लीन सिस्टम मेरे हिसाब से बेस्ट प्रिंसिपल है। वो मैनिफेस्ट होता है अलग अलग जगह पे। तो यदि इस चीज को हम, जिसको मैं कहूँ आत्मसात कर सकें कि एक बेस्ट सिद्धांत है कार्य क्षेत्र का, तो मेरे ख्याल से तो आपका घर भी सुधर जाएगा, आपका किचन भी सुधर जाएगा, आपका फ्यूल कंजम्पशन कम हो जाएगा, आपका घर का पानी का कंजम्पशन कम हो जाएगा, यदि हम उसको एक बेस्ट प्रिंसिपल की तरह लें। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो प्लेटफॉर्म वाली थिंकिंग है और ये जो बेसिक, और ये छोटे सिद्धांत है, ऐसा नहीं कि बहुत बड़ा इसमें मैथमेटिक्स करना है, ये सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स है, मैथमेटिक्स में भी है। तो यदि हम ये बेस्ट प्रिंसिपल्स को सामने रखें और एक प्लेटफॉर्म क्रिएट करें कि भाई ये प्रिंसिपल है, ये देखो ये हो सकता है, मेरे ख्याल से काम बहुत आसान है। ये मेरा विचार है, ये काम बहुत आसान है। इसको मैं ही नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि लोग समझदार नहीं है और लोगों को सिंप्लीफाई करना, मैं बिल्कुल ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ। मैं कह रहा हूँ कि उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात को रखी जाए जिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में उसका एब्जॉर्प्शन होगा, क्योंकि शरीर में सारे विटामिन्स अब्जॉर्ब नहीं होते हैं, राइट? तो विटामिन्स को शरीर में डालने का भी एक तरीका होता है ताकि वो शरीर में अब्जॉर्ब हो जाए, तभी हेल्दी शरीर बनेगा। एग्जैक्टली वही लॉजिक कि क्या अब्जॉर्ब होगा शरीर में, उस फॉर्मेट में न्यूट्रिशन को डालें ताकि शरीर तंदुरुस्त हो। मैं इस विचार का व्यक्ति हूँ।
Yeah, lot of things getting generated out of your thought.
जी,
सर
जी।
यहाँ पे भले आज थोड़े लोग हैं,
जी।
but I say they are vital few. है ना?
नहीं, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत
आपका
नहीं।
आज जो टॉक है ना, that will generate fruits for the society. इतना मैं कह
आई
सकता
विश। और यदि आपको लगता है मैं कुछ आप लोगों के साथ कुछ कर सकता हूँ, प्लीज मुझे याद करिएगा। मैं हर महीने ईडीआई आता हूँ। हाँ, तो राहुल को मालूम है, तो यदि आपको लगे कि कुछ हम सब मिलके कुछ कर सकें तो ये मेरे लिए भी सौभाग्य की बात होगी। ऑलमोस्ट एवरी मंथ आई कम हियर। कभी कभी महीने में 2 बार भी आना जाता है, तो 2 बार छोड़ दीजिए, 1 बार तो आना होता ही है। तो वी कैन कैच अप। जी। तो सर आपका सवाल का जवाब कि यही मैं कह रहा हूँ कि बिजनेस भी तो सोशल इम्पैक्ट ढूंढ सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई कैन रीडिजाइन माई सप्लाई चेन, जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, एंड इंटीग्रेट विद डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ थिंग। अमूल इज द बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल। राहुल से बेहतर तो अमूल को कोई एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाएंगे, राइट? अमूल इज द बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल, राइट? तो जहाँ पे सोसाइटल वैल्यू को बिजनेस के साथ तो जमाने पहले इंटीग्रेट कर दिया गया है, तो एक बिजनेस को भी तो सोशल वैल्यू, मतलब उल्टा भी तो चल सकते हैं। सोशल एंटरप्राइज बिजनेस वैल्यू क्रिएट करे, इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू जनरेट करे, बिजनेस भी तो सोशल वैल्यू क्रिएट कर सकते हैं। और कोई त्याग करने की जरूरत नहीं किसी को, आप अपना बिजनेस करने का थोड़ा सा दृष्टिकोण बदल दें, काफी है। और सबको ही सोशल सर्विस करना ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है, किसी को बिजनेस भी करना पड़ेगा। पार्ले जी का पैकेट 2 रुपए वाला, 5 रुपए वाला हम सभी को चाहिए। तो यदि वो फैक्ट्री यदि बिस्किट नहीं बनाएगी तो हम और आपको बिस्किट कौन देगा? तो सब लोग सोशल वर्क करने लग जाएंगे तो वो 5 रुपए वाला पैकेट या 2 रुपए वाला पैकेट हमारे हाथ में नहीं आएगा। सो वी नीड बिजनेसेस एक्चुअली। सो बिजनेस हैज टू डू गुड बिजनेस एंड सोशल एंटरप्राइज हैज टू डू गुड सोशल एंटरप्राइज। इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ कि सारे प्रॉब्लम सोशल एंटरप्राइज को ही सॉल्व करना है, ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है, ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है। और मुझे आई एम नॉट एट ऑल एग्रीइंग टू दैट कि सारे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने का सोशल एंटरप्राइज के पास कैपेबिलिटी, ऐसा नहीं है। कुछ प्रॉब्लम तो बिजनेस एंटरप्राइज ही सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, जो बिजनेस को ही करना चाहिए। बट यस, दोनों एक दूसरे से शायद सीख सकते हैं, मतलब दे कुड बी क्रॉस लर्निंग फ्रॉम ईच अदर, दैट्स पॉसिबल। I think mic is wrong.
I have the mic. So as you all know, this is a productivity lecture series held by AMA in association with the National Productivity Council. We have the managing director of the National Productivity Council with us also here, Mr. Rahul Kirkire. I'll give the mic to him now to extend a vote of thanks and to end the session.
Firstly, it is regional director, because we don't have any such positions in government. And anyway, yeah. So basically, we started this productivity lecture series, and this is the 3rd lecture in the series. We have 3 more lectures. Like every quarter, we keep on giving the lectures to AMA, and we have the next lectures also lined up for January, February, and March. Of course. Very less participation. I am sorry for that. We did our marketing, but I think the time was also like that. Maybe, I don't know. In Lean itself, we have been discussing a lot of things. In fact, when we did our first cluster in 2014, after that we had some impact evaluation. So what are the benefits that we got? So after all, Lean was all efficiency, but still in those outcomes, there were few statements. Like one of the manager in one of the units, he said कि आजकल मैं 7 बजे घर पहुंच सकता हूँ, otherwise मैं 10 बजे पहुंचता था. So there are societal impacts also of talking about all efficiency and things like that. So nothing can be excluded from society. Everything that we do has some societal value. It's only the perspective which changes when we talk about social entrepreneurship. Platform thing, there are a lot of statements which were eye-opening, like his statement of 80% of the agricultural work is done by women, so things should be designed for them. We never thought about that. So this you get when you visit the field. So we have been visiting the shop floor. We would have lot of examples from that. So he has been moving around in the rural fields, and he has lot of things, inputs regarding those fields. Thank you very much, sir. And it was a very nice experience. Though the crowd was less, they enjoyed a lot. That can be known from their question answer sessions. Thank you, madam, also for hosting this brilliantly. And thank you for the audience also. Thank you to AMA for giving us this facility. And we'll continue these productivity lecture series. Hope to see you. I think 17 January is the next. That is based upon 5S. Thank you. Thank you very much.